Hi, everybody. Laura Basson here. Thanks for joining me. Today, I have the great honor of joining my lovely friend Virginia Liu for her 13th challenge, and it's called All Things Embossed. So, I'm going to do a little emboss resist. I'm starting with this Winnie and Walter stamp set. I love these triangles in this stamp set. And so, what I'm going to do is first rub it down. I'm using watercolor cardstock, that Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock, which is my favorite. And I took some post it tape and masks off a few of those triangles. I'm only wanting to stamp about 4 of them because I want to keep a nice border around. I don't want to cover the entire card front or front panel. I just want to do some triangles, just a little rectangle of triangles. That makes sense? So I'm going to stamp some and then I'll pour on the clear embossing powder. This is Simon's Stamp clear embossing powder. So I got to pour that on to see where I'm at. Otherwise, you can't really see what you've done. Now I'm going to mask off the triangles again, ink it up with Versamark, take off the post-it tape, and stamp it again. Try to line it up each time, and then I'll pour on more embossing powder so that I can see where I'm at. And I'll just keep going, keep doing this until I fill up a good portion of the card front, leaving a nice border around the edge. And then once we're done with that, I will go ahead and hit it with my heat gun and get this all ready to do our watercolor with our embossed resist. And this is going to look fabulous. Now I took it off the camera to do the heat gun, you know what I mean? And so now I've got it all ready to go. I've got I'm not even going to try to pronounce these watercolors. Something Zig, something Kiritaki, I don't even know. But whatever the fact, they're awesome. They are so pigmented and creamy and delicious. And so what I'm doing here is I didn't have a plan. And you'll see I sped this up because I was going so slow because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do something really cool. But I didn't know how to get there. You have no idea what I go through when I make a card. I go through about 3 to 4 cards for every one that actually passes the test because I don't have a plan and it's got to go through this evolution. Some of you might understand my insanity, but I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and most of the time I hate it, and then I hate it, and then I hate it, and then I love it finally. And you'd probably be really surprised to know that when I started out with this project, honest to goodness, I had in my mind, I want to do something really soft and airy and subtle, very soft watercolor, very loose and airy, soft colors. And you know what came out? Bright, vivid, rainbow, right in your face, just like what always happens with me. And I wanted to do soft, subtle, and airy. And out comes bright, vivid, rainbow, right in your face. It happens every time to me. I did not set out to do rainbow. It's like I lost all control and out popped a rainbow. Anyhow, I love it. I mean, I love it, but I did set out to do something very soft and pastel-y. But, I can't stop what happened. It's boom, bada bing, out it popped. So, okay, now we got that all done. I let it dry, and then I'm mounting this with some foam tape on a standard size card base. And then I will add my sentiment. This is what I did for this. I couldn't find something that I wanted, and I didn't want to cover up too much of that design. So I went to my silhouette. I just typed in this. I didn't buy a cut file or anything. I just typed in, "You are my fave." I squeezed it together, and then I cut it with my thing, added some sparkling clear sequins by Pretty Pink Posh, and that is all there is to that. Now we're moving on one more similar type of technique with the embossed resist. This time I'm using that large grid background cling stamp by Simon's Stamp. I love this grid. I love anything grid and or geometric. Obviously you can tell I fell in love with the triangles and now I'm using the grid. I just love those kind of shapes. And I'm using that Tim Holtz watercolor cardstock again. And I flip that over and put on, like to do the large background stamps like this. Instead of putting the stamp on the paper, I put the paper on the stamp. Are you following me? Okay, so now once we got that stamped, I'll pour on my clear embossing powder. Did I mention I'm using Simon's Stamp clear embossing powder? I really love this embossing powder. It's very fine and it gives you really good detail, especially if your lines are super thin. It really gives that nice thin detail, which I love. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just wetting it down, getting it nice and wet, and dropping in some of the color. Again, out popped the rainbow. I don't know how. I don't know how, but it did. And I'm just going in rainbow order, obviously, and just kind of letting the colors blend together and seep in. And I like to have some darks, some lights, and trying to keep a nice white border around the edge. and all that jazz. And then I will try my best to let it air dry. I find that you get really great results if you can let it air dry, but usually I don't have the patience, so I'll let it air dry for a little bit, and then I'll come in with my heat gun and try to quicken the process. But I usually regret doing that. I think you get best results if you let it air dry. So once that's all done, I mount it on a card base with foam tape, just like I did my other card. And then I've got this beautiful word die. This is by Simon Says Stamp. And what I'm doing is adhering four together. I'm stacking it up, layering it up with Tombow Mono to give it a nice thickness. And I'm going to be gluing that on the bottom here. But at first I want to stamp hey. And this is from the Hello You stamp set. So it's going to say, hey, beautiful. And I was nervous about stamping this hay over top of the watercolor and the embossing. I wasn't sure how it was going to go over. Clearly, I didn't think it over before all this, but I went ahead and stamped it. And then what I had to do was take my little multi-liner pen and go in and fill in because it did want to resist where the embossing had been. So, but that multi-liner filled it in just perfectly. So all there is left to do really is just adhere this word, this layered up word die cut. And I'll trim off the side so that it fits right into that painted rectangle and adhere that down with Tombow Mono, and this card is finished. I cannot wait to see what y'all come up with using this embossing theme. There's so many fun things you can do with embossing. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.